What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel and to the video. I just realized it looks like I'm still filming in, I want to say it's 60 FPS 1080p or maybe even 1440. Let me know how things look. I'll try and hold still. What we're working on today is a 2012 Toyota Sienna. This has kind of the earlier 2GR FE. It's a 3.5 V6. And we're going to find out together today if the tensioner pulley alone can be replaced, rather than replacing the pain-in-the-butt $300 tensioner assembly. We have a noisy bearing in our tensioner pulley, and I know that by listening to it with a long screwdriver to my ear. It's kind of grindy, it's louder on startup, cold startup specifically. So I've got a couple pulleys here that I think are the right one, and we're going to lift it up and see what we can do. So to start this job, we're going to go bottom side, because you can see what kind of access we have top side is not good. But our tensioner is right there. It's got about the, what is that, 14 or 15, probably 14 millimeter bolt on it, right down ahead of the high side AC port right here. So we're going to go bottom side, take our passenger side tire off, most likely, and a little plastic cover out of the way, and I will meet you guys there. So if you're following along, I would highly recommend jacking up the vehicle, taking off the tire, and we'll see what kind of access we have down there. Okay, so we're just going to buzz the wheel off here. I've got the front end supported. I'm going to get to use my newly warranty repaired Aircat 1178. I've got a video on that that's getting all kinds of great attention lately. So we're going to take this off, 21 millimeter lug nuts. Wow, that's awesome. Jeez. Highly recommend this impact. This is the Vibrotherm drive, they call it. Again, it's an 1178-VXL. It's just so smooth and powerful. That Vibrotherm is designed to cause less vibration in the hand. It's hard to demonstrate that, but it just hardly moves when I squeeze the trigger. Alright, so we'll pop that off, and I'll bring you in close to show you what we're looking at here. Let me get my light. Okay. So next we're going to remove a couple of 10 millimeters here. On this cover, you can see one there, and then one plastic clip. This style of clip is a little interesting. You're going to actually press in the center of the clip and then pull out on the outer portion. So just take out those two 10s and the one clip. I'm going to do that off camera. But again, you're going to press in on the center, small portion there, and you'll be able to pull everything out. I've got a spare hand, so I might as well show you. Got the two 10s out. Just got a small screwdriver here. I'm going to press in on the middle, and everything comes out. So then when you're putting this back on, you just need to reset it. It's going to be hard to see here, but you reset it by getting things flush again. So you have to gently bend these four tabs out, press the center section back. There you go. Like that. Then you'll stick it in and push this in until it's flush, and it's locked again. So unlock by pushing down, reset by pushing out, and then final assembly is flush again. Okay, so now we're down to our belt. You can see we have a little better access here because that's our tensioner right there. And so, tough angle, but that's the pulley we're after right there. So we're going to release the pulley by pulling on it counterclockwise with either a belt release tool or just a ratchet or a wrench. And I'm going to slide my belt out. I'm actually doing a belt on this too, so we'll pull it all the way out. If you're not replacing a belt, you can try and keep everything on the pulleys by just removing it from the tensioner pulley. And then we're going to replace the pulley and put everything back. So I'll do my best to give you guys a good angle here to see how it's done, but as you can tell, it's not a great filming location. So sit tight, I'll try and get you set up here and show the process of removing the belt and the pulley. Okay, sorry about the LED light flickering just a little bit there. So you cannot do this with a socket and a ratchet, you just don't have the space between the fender. So I guess ideal tool would be a belt removal tool, just a real thin, long, sort of a wrench looking thing. But if you don't have that, you can do it like I'm doing it with two wrenches. What I've got is a 14mm closed end, or boxed end, on the bolt, on the tensioner, and it's as if you're loosening. So I've also got a 16mm wrench, and I'll show you this once it's off, what my setup looks like. But I've got it pulled up above the kind of motor mount, and I'll show you that too. I just don't want to move the camera because we've got a pretty good shot right now. So just pressing down, I'm going to relieve the belt tension, and it's always easiest to slide it off of a smooth pulley first. So I'm going to slide it off my tensioner, and I actually can't see what I'm doing. I'm just going by feel here. So don't be discouraged if you can't see. It's really not too bad. And it feels like I'm just jammed. You guys can probably see that better than I can. Yep, I'm just jammed into the water pump slightly. So I'm gonna have to undo that with another bar here. Okay, that's what I'll do. I'm gonna take a hammer handle. Hopefully this didn't happen to you, but if it did, this is valuable information. And you can negative comment me all day, but it's gonna work. I'm gonna get a small hammer handle. And just to relieve my wrench that's stuck, I'm gonna gently pry against the AC compressor pulley right here. Hopefully you can see this. And I'll be able to slide my wrench out. There we go. And there's my wrench. Okay, so I'm going to show you what everything looked like here. So here's my 14mm wrench I had on the tensioner. Had I ratcheted it down a little further, it maybe wouldn't have gotten stuck, but that's okay. And then what I did is took a 16 wrench, and this is a little trick. You can actually hook a slightly larger wrench on the smaller wrench to give yourself more leverage. You don't have to do it one-handed while filming, like I'm doing. But that will hook on there, like so. And then you can press down, and where I had it oriented is right here above this motor mount. It's right up here, and I pressed down and released that tensioner. An even easier case would be if you had the special tool, and I do, I just wanted to show that this is an option, is to do it from up top. So have a friend or just jump up top real quick, and you have much more room up there to orient your tool up here instead of down here. So anyway, we've got our belt off. Next, we need to remember that these threads holding that pulley on are left-hand threaded. So we're going to loosen it in the opposite direction that we just released it. So we released it as if you were normally loosening, so counterclockwise, but these threads are actually reverse threaded. That way when you release the tensioner, you're not loosening the bolt. So I'm going to actually flip my ratchet or my wrench to tighten to remove that bolt. So we'll do that next. I'll try and set you up in the same spot. Let's see what happens if we kill this LED. Now we've got the same flicker. Sorry about that. It's just annoying. I I think it's the way LEDs work. They're actually flicking off and on to control brightness, and the camera is picking it up so quickly you can see that. Okay, so now as if I'm tightening, I'll put my wrench on. Let's see how tight this thing is. Probably pretty tight. You can see what I'm doing is just grabbing the balancer with my thumbs and pulling over. And this is with just a short 14. I was able to loosen it. Just like that. So remember, left hand threaded. And hopefully we have just enough room to get this pulley out of there before we hit the fender. I'm sure I'm totally blocking your view. There we go. So that is our tensioner pulley removed. Let's head over to the bench and do some investigating. Alright, here we are over at my desk. I'm going to get a caliper out here. And I hope the camera holds on to my toolbox. So, here's our tensioner we just removed. I'm going to go ahead and take the bolt and the washer off. Be careful not to lose that stuff. The bearing actually doesn't feel too bad, but you'd be surprised the tiny amount of damage that can cause a real big noise. So in something this small and lightweight, you might not necessarily feel a bad bearing, but we know by listening that that was making noise. So here are the two gates possibilities that I ordered. I believe it's this one that we're going to want, and I think this is the idler pulley. So I'm not going to open that yet. Let's open this one and double check our measurements to see how we did. Wow, and it's got some new parts with it. Okay, so without even pulling the caliper out yet, you can see our width is identical, our diameter is identical, and our hole size, as long as the threads are the same. And you wouldn't have to use this bolt, but I think it's interesting that it came with a bolt, and we can check that. Our bolt length appears too long. So in that case, I think I would elect to reuse this bolt. And actually the threads are different. So if this is our candidate, we're going to reuse the old bolt. But let's just compare to this other pulley just in case. And I will give you all the part numbers and everything here, don't worry. So, what's the deal with this one? This one, diameter is the same. Width is slightly wider, actually. And hole size is about the same, but the construction just looks different. The bearing is very thin, or narrow, where here we have a very fat bearing, and here we have a very fat bearing. And the size is identical. Let's measure just to make sure. We have 2.747 outside, 2.747 outside. Actually, just for fun, about the same diameter, but let's see thickness. 1.32 or so, if I can hold it straight. We are just slightly narrower, but I think this is the winner. And that confirms what I saw. You can see how thin this would be and how deep inset that bolt would go, where these two are identical. So the part number on this is a Gates 36174. And I believe that was about a $25 or $30 pulley. I can confirm that off screen here. Yep, that was right about $30. So much better than your $200 and something tensioner and a fraction of the amount of work. So what we're going to have to do is just reuse our bolt. So I'm going to unthread this. Again, if you're following along, you'll unthread these components. Looks like that washer would come out, but we're actually going to want that to adapt our bolt size. And then we're going to keep this, we might as well, this dust protector. Slide our new, or our old original bolt in. And just to double check things, let's see what our bolt length is sticking out here. So we're basically 0.5 with everything put together. And what were we on our original? Actually, we were 0.6 there. So bear with me. Let's compare what this came with. Nope, that's going to be way over. Yep, I think within 1/10 of an inch will be great. So we'll go with our old bolt and our new dust washer. And that's going to be our setup. So we'll throw this back on the car and see how everything works. I'm just going to slide it back in, bolt it on, and then in that same method, release the tension, and I will get back to you guys once it's all functioning. It's back on. I tell you guys what, getting that belt back on is a little bit of a challenge. I've certainly had worse, so don't be too discouraged. The diagram or the routing is not that bad. It's basically just what you would assume. It's around the outsides, but then up and over the tensioner between the water pump and the crank, and down and under the idler between the, what is that? The alternator and would it be the power steering? I can't remember if this has electric power steering. But anyway, it's not bad. The main challenge is being able to hold the tensioner without the special tool. So if you have the special tool, and even better if you have a second set of hands, it's no problem. But it took me about 10 minutes and minimal frustration, but it is a little bit of a challenge to get it on. So just make sure you tighten down your bolt. Remember, tightening is loosening because it's reverse threaded. And basically you're going to go as tight as you can before the tensioner starts to release. So there comes a point where you're tightening on it and then you're just fighting the spring in the tensioner, and that's tight enough. Make sure that the pulley spins and you didn't bind anything up or forget any little pieces like that dust washer or the adapter on the back side, that hole adapter, and you're good to go. So we're going to start it up and see how it sounds. Looking good. Awesome. Alright, you guys, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe as always. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comments. And I'll see you on the next one.